Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I'm sorry we're running a little bit over on time. We did say half past, but, we're here. We're here to talk Pittsburgh Steelers. We're here to talk Najee Harris. I've got Adam joining me once again, talking about my team for once. I've talked about every other team, but now we're finally talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, my team, and I can be really amped up and pumped up for it, just like I was with the pick on the night. We have joining with us, we have Steve from part of the Clickbait Sports team, Urinating Tree, the Twitter handle, which is not one you get to see every day. He was just like fellow guest Brandon Perner, part of the Clickbait Sports team, as over nearly 500,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel there now, Steve. Definitely. Slowly crawling up. How you been finding it? How's your year been so far? I know it's been a bit crazy, but are things all leveling out now where you are?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I actually just got back from vacation yesterday. Took a little trip to Baltimore and Ocean City with my girlfriend, so we were there for about a week. So I'm finally back, just getting started on some more MLB and NHL content, gearing up for the NFL season. So that'll be a busy time for me. So how have you guys been doing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we'd be doing okay. I thought if you'd be in Baltimore, you might be nipping to their training camp, getting some, notes to send off to the Steelers organization, ways we can beat Lamar, ways to outbeat Marlon Humphrey. You could have been the Pittsburgh Steelers insider there in Baltimore.
But if you remember correctly, Heinz Field is saying not to take photographs or cell phone pictures of their plays at Heinz Field now. So maybe Baltimore is the same thing, even though I'm not sure if they're doing it at M&T or they're doing it at a different location.
Oh, very fair. So, we've been doing really okay. We've started leveling out here with the COVID stuff and very, very pumped up for the NFL season to start. Oh, yeah. Very, very soon. Still haven't had news about if the London games is really going to go ahead. We haven't had any ticket information. So fingers crossed it will. But, you never know. We've not exactly got the games that are going to light the world on fire. We've got the Jets, Falcons, the Jags.
Yeah, they're trying to really push Jacksonville, the Jags on England.
Oh, yeah, massively. Yeah, we're very much getting it shoved down our throats year after year, which is good for the Jags fans over here. But, we'd like to – Adam's still waiting. Green Bay are the only team that haven't been over here. So Adam is still waiting for them.
For Green Bay.
Yeah, one day it might happen. Yeah. But
maybe they play Jacksonville and then they bring them over.
Yeah, well, you never know. Probably once we get a really bad team, that's when they'll bring us over.
Well, let's start talking about the team that we're here to talk about, Pittsburgh Steelers, the future of the franchise series. Obviously, we're here to talk about Najee Harris, who was the first round pick for the Steelers. I'll give my reaction to how I felt about the pick in a moment, Steve. But what was your reaction on the night? Najee Harris's name gets called out. The Steelers organization, we didn't know whether they were going to go offensive line. We loved the idea of running back, but it was the flashy pick at 24. Yes. What was your reaction on the night when the Alabama running back got drafted?
I was not a fan of the pick, and it's not because of Najee Harris. I mean, I don't mind Najee Harris. I like him as a talent. My issue is that the Steelers have greater issues on their offensive line, and especially since you've lost 4/5 of it, even though it has aged, it is not what it was in 2018. Running backs are also helped by the offensive line that blocks for them. So look at Le'Veon Bell, for example. His strength was, patience, waiting for the line to develop holes. And they were fantastic at that, especially when Bell was in his prime. With a Najee Harris, he is the two-way kind of back that the Steelers love. They'll get him a lot of touches in like screen passes, out of the backfield, lining up at wideout. But at the same time, I felt like they should have taken, like, my pick there was Alex Leatherwood, but he had been taken at 18. So, like, Tevin Jenkins I liked as well. I also liked Alex Dickerson, the center out of Alabama. So those would have been my three guys, mostly because I feel like with running back, you can find great talents in the second and third round. But that's more because I feel like the Steelers are really trying to capitalize on, like, the final years of their window, and they felt that running back was a big weakness. And they did have like a very one-dimensional game, but I think that was more because of the play calling and just like run blocking was very substandard last year. Just that was more because of regression. And with what's happened this offseason, I feel like it's left me with more questions in regards to how they treated this offseason, especially with David DeCastro getting cut. And now we know he may never play again, and that sucks because I absolutely love David DeCastro. I loved his game. He was a fantastic talent, especially for pull plays. But at the same time, I don't know if Trey Turner is going to come in and give the same kind of impact. There are too many questions, especially blindside tackle, left guard, center still a bit iffy. Like, we don't know if it's going to be Finney or Hassenauer in that position. The third rounder out of Eastern Illinois, I believe, they're big on him, but he's still a project. He's going to be a couple years away.
Who did you want, Fred?
The first round pick? I would have gone like Alex Leatherwood, Tevin Jenkins, or Alex Dickerson. Probably Dickerson, because they had a huge hole at center with Pouncey retiring.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the Harris pick. I know it's the flashy one. I said weeks into when we're talking about we were doing our mock drafts, we were talking about the draft, what we were looking at, especially me and you, Adam, were talking a lot. I kept saying offensive line is the pick. It should be the pick. It's the wise pick. It's the unexciting pick. It's the pick that no one really wants to do, but it is the pick that's most vital. Needed. It's vital. But then when Najee Harris's pick came in, I went not viral because that would mean that I'd be here, there, and everywhere. But I definitely got a lot of attention with my reaction on the night on the Twitterverse, and I did get a little bit excited because it is the flashy pick. Even though we do this, we can put our NFL media analyst or that sort of cap on. We are NFL fans, and it's nice to see these cool picks happen sometimes. And my problem was we then got to the second round, and we should have taken an offensive lineman there, but we took tight end. We picked Pat Fryermuth, the baby Gronk, and it could be a good pick going forward. Like, don't get me wrong, that could definitely be a good pick. But the offensive lineman names were on the board there with the Steelers. We could have moved up. We could have got Dickerson in the second very easily,
mid-second.
That I'd have felt a lot more comfortable with that. That was my problem, really. The Harris pick wasn't I was happy with that pick. It was like, right, okay, now we've done that. You've got to go and get the offensive line to help him with that. And that just didn't happen. And I'm sure we'll probably discuss more of that later on, knowing it. Alabama, a factory, a machine for NFL talent. Every guy that comes out there seems to be incredible. What did you like about him at Alabama, Steve? The way I've watched some highlights today, and I'll give my opinion, but he's definitely a tantalizing player to watch.
Absolutely. Two-way player. The Steelers have always had an emphasis on running backs having a role in the passing game. And Najee Harris had a huge role in the passing game. And I feel like that's really going to be what they utilize him for. Screens out of the backfield when Ben has trouble, line up at wideout. They've done a ton of that, especially like even with guys like Snell and McFarland. They also do like motion options, like more like subtlety than anything. So like in terms of like emphasizing his strengths as a pass catching running back, I feel like that's why they picked him. Like even like over ETN. ETN, you can argue, is better pass catching, but Najee Harris is the better pure runner, especially in terms of like his natural like elusiveness and just power. Like he's a good like well-rounded back, I would say.
Do you think that he will adapt to the NFL well, considering his time at Alabama?
I think so. I don't have an issue with like Harris in general. My issue is with the people in front of him, because if you don't have a good line to block with him, then his strengths and talents are going to be more or less neutralized, and he won't be what he's able to truly be. Because, I mean, look at some of the running backs that have come out of like the draft as of late. I mean, James Robinson, big running back out of Jacksonville, undrafted. Alvin Kamara, 3rd round pick. Derrick Henry, 2nd round pick. You had trying to think of a few others. Dalvin Cook, 2nd round pick. And most likely, 1st rounder doesn't mean you're going to get a premium running back talent. It's just that you got the best available running back at the time. The only one I can really think of that was like high up on the board, I'd say, is probably Ezekiel Elliott, even though he had fumble issues, and Josh Jacobs.
I'd say Saquon Barkley as well.
Yeah, Saquon too, but he's been dealing with injuries.
Well, yeah, he has had that as well. But you're right. Harris is coming. What's worse for Harris about this, with adapting with the NFL, he's coming from the best line in college football, the best offensive line in college football, and they were outstanding last year. Alabama were outstanding at all times, and also he had the best wide receiving core in college football as well. So, okay, Mac Jones, a decent quarterback. You know, he's decent at where he is. He's nothing special. He's not going to light the house on fire, but he's a guy that can work the pocket and he can work the ball. And it's not like Harris is. Harris is going to a good team. Steelers are a good team. He's not going to an organization that's rebuilding or anything like that, or that has problems, but he is coming from a college team that had everything. Yes. And the Steelers, unfortunately, do not have everything anymore. Maybe he did a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, certainly. So adapting wise, I think it is going to be a massive step up, and I think a lot of players can really crumble under that, or they can really make themselves, like you said about all them running backs there that went in the lower rounds and have really made themselves into something in the NFL. They've managed to step up to the plate. The problem with being a first round pick is you're expected to step up to the plate very quickly. Absolutely. And is this the best situation for him to do that right away? No, not really.
I don't know. I mean, some running backs thrive under that pressure, and the expectations for Harris are going to be astronomical, especially for a team that still believes they have Super Bowl ambitions. He's going to be expected to be a 1,000-yard rusher and maybe like a 10-touchdown guy right off the bat.
Do you actually think that that's realistic, though, considering the situation that the Steelers are in at the moment?
It's not about what is realistic. It's about what the Steelers and their fans believe. And there are a lot of expectations, especially for this season, which, I mean, I don't agree with bringing Ben back. I think he showed a lot of flaws. I think his greatest strengths as a quarterback have been neutralized. And the final weeks really showed that he's pretty much done. But I think they're seeing this as like a last dance of sorts. So I think for that sake, I feel like the pressure's on everyone else to elevate Ben, what he can't do, what he did 10 years ago. So that's why you brought Juju back. That's why you drafted Freiermuth. That's why you drafted Najee Harris. I mean, long term, I don't know if they pan out, but at the same time, they're doing it for right now. And I mean, I get their logic behind it, but at the same time, I don't know if it
Well, you could argue that the Harris pick has been, we need to get an elite running back in, elite young running back in, because we are now putting too much on Ben to throw the ball. We look at us last year, we were last in rushing yards for the whole season. I knew we were bad at running, but when I was looking at the stats, I mean, we had 373 attempts, which was 28th in the league. 1,351 yards last, 12 touchdowns, 29th in the league. 3.6 yards per carry, last in the league, 84.4 yards per game, last in the league. And maybe the Harris pick was a lifeline for Ben to go if we're going to have you back one more year, we need to give you a running back that is going to take some of the pressure off you, because we don't want you throwing 25 plus times a game, because it's just not sustainable. And that was proven with, we went 11-0. That's all well and good. But them last 5 games were awful.
They imploded.
We imploded. Exactly. And maybe this is that lifeline to say, right, it's going to be last year. We'll give you the tools to be able for you to succeed. Problem is now is he going to be standing upright at all times to be able to succeed?
I think it's going to be a lot like it was last year. A lot of quick 3-step drops, short passes, and screens. That's what they did a lot of last year to compensate for the regressed offensive line and the one-dimensional running game. I mean, it was a very one-dimensional play calling scheme. I was not a fan of Randy Fiedner. I thought he should have been fired after his first year. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at footage from Ben about 10 years ago, and Ben now, the biggest difference to me is not in his arm strength. It's in his maneuverability in the pocket. Because when he was younger, he was able to maneuver around defenders, be elusive, allow the receivers to create space. And that's what made Ben special. Now he can't do that anymore because he doesn't have the legs anymore. So that's my biggest issue with him moving forward. And I feel unfortunately, it doesn't matter what you do. Ben doesn't have that game-changing ability that he once had. He's a pocket passer, and the current NFL will feast on pocket passers, especially if you don't have a proven pass-blocking offensive line. And the Steelers are putting in a bunch of young pieces who may pan out, but there's a lot of unproven commodities there. Chuck Okorafor is moving from right tackle to left, that he hasn't really played that much. Kevin Dotson is left guard, and there have been apparently a lot of grumblings that he may be out of shape. Center, still a question mark. Right guard, you have a new guy in Trey Turner. Right tackle, Zach Banner, who I like, but at the same time, he was injured for most of last year with the torn ACL. So, as I said, my questions for this team are on the offensive line, and it may rob them of the offense's true potential and force the defense to be have a greater role than they really should.
So can I, and this is kind of a question for both of you, really. I mean, do you actually think that Ben is going to make it all the way through this season? Because obviously, you have said about the struggles that he's had, and this is a big, a big problem for you guys. Because when you actually look at what's behind him, there's not a great deal of strength in depth at the quarterback room. So, is this a concern?
I think it is a concern, at least for the short term. I know Mason Rudolph, they're still really high on, and I think you can get at least equal production, but not really because of what he can do, but because he has greater arm strength, and I liked what I saw of him out of Oklahoma State. The main thing there, if Ben does struggle, I feel like they're more or less going to do him a solid and not bench him, but they're going to say he has an injury and then let him bow out gracefully for the season, because I feel like that's more or less how the Steelers have treated Ben over the past 10, 15 years. So I feel like they're not going to let him struggle and die, but at the same time they'll give him at least hey, look, it hasn't worked out, but you can take a little out here. We'll let you have the remainder of your contract and you can retire at least with some semblance of dignity. So that's what they may be thinking if things go sour. If he's able to keep upright and healthy, then perhaps I can see him play the season. But I don't know if he's going to get you the level of quarterbacking that can take you to a Super Bowl unless you have a 2016 Denver Broncos situation where you have such an otherworldly defense that it can mask the issues you have at quarterback.
Well, that's what I thought we were last year. That's in my mind when I was if Steelers are going to get to the Super Bowl, this is going to be like Denver Broncos in 16. It's going to be all defense. We'll stick to our strengths on the offense. It ain't going to be that pretty, but we'll be able to scrape points and get by doing that. Yeah. But lots of crazy things happened in the Cleveland game, obviously. Obviously, with Dwayne Haskins coming in, he seems to be sort of the heir apparent. I'm not big on him. I'm not big. His talent's decent, I admit. But I'm not big on his character. I think that the stuff that happened with him, Ron Rivera in Washington, with him in the strip club and stuff like that during COVID, for me, just as a personality thing and just through the pure crap that we've had to go through in the last year, and the stuff that Ron Rivera's had to go through, I thought was that was, but in my mind, that just put a black mark next to his name. That's not compromised ability. And Andrew, who's one of our co-hosts, all the time says Dwayne Haskins is going to be great for you. His ability is fantastic. And I'm like, I don't doubt his ability. I just don't like the guy. That's just my problem with that. Mason Rudolph. We've won games with him. He's okay there. He can hold a team. It's just, what is it going forward? I was very high on getting Jalen Hurts in the second round when we took Chase Claypool. It's worked out in a way that Chase Claypool's been very good for us and seems to be a very good talent. But I wanted to be 2 years in front, not now, probably a year behind when it comes to the end of the 2021 season, where when we're going to put the pressure on a quarterback straight away to maybe come in if we don't get someone in the offseason, or if Dwayne Haskins is the heir apparent, then that happens either or we could go to the draft and we draft someone. I wanted to get this issue sorted with Ben done 2-3 years prior to Ben opting out. Problem is Ben with his ego and stuff like that isn't always been the most accepting of new guys in the room. It's worrying times, but he's been a great quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think you're right, Steve, if it does go a bit wrong, I would like to think it will be done gracefully. He'll bow out. They'll get his contract at the end of the year. They'll just put him on the PUP list or, on the injury reserve list or whatever. And IR, and he'll be able to play out his contract. That's what I would presume would happen for me.
Yeah. The thing with, especially as you were saying 2-3 years prior, I think that's what they were trying with Mason Rudolph. And he was showing some promise, but ever since that concussion he had against Baltimore, it just seems like he hasn't really been the same. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but at the same time, it seems like he's trying to force a bunch of balls. And I think that's an issue, especially in the modern NFL. Secondaries will feast on that. Haskins seems like it's more or less a shot in the dark. I don't really have any expectations for Haskins. He does have talent, but he's very, very raw. And he really pissed his opportunity away in Washington. He was looked at as the heir apparent, and he got kind of screwed over by Jay Gruden, but he didn't help himself in any way, especially him going up to his lineman saying, "What do I have to do to help you?" Demeaning them in a sort of way. There was also that. There was him gloating about stats when the the formerly Redskins lost to the Ravens. And then there's the stuff that came out with COVID and the strip clubs. And when you're getting benched for like a guy you picked up off the street, a practice squad guy, and Taylor Heineke, I think you're done. And like when Ron Rivera says he's done with your shit, that's a bad sign because Ron Rivera is one of the most respected coaches in this league. And so that's why I see Dwayne Haskins as more as like, okay, he had a first-round pedigree. Maybe he could be something. He's still youngish. That's how I see Haskins.
I was shocked we picked him up. I thought for an organization like Steelers, it's very historic and very prim and proper in the way they go about. Very old school, really, is the word I'm looking for, about how they go about stuff. I thought they would have viewed the Haskins situation and been all about Team Rivera and the respect they have for Ron Rivera. Now, I'm not saying picking him up is disrespectful to Ron Rivera at all. I don't believe that. But I thought Steelers as an organization with how they have been and how they are wouldn't be sniffing around a player like him for me in that personality trait, I suppose. Let's talk about Najee Harris a bit more. Let's just go back to him for just a second. Steve, what do you think his weaknesses were at Alabama?
I don't think he really had a weakness, and I think that's why the Steelers liked him. Like, he can do pretty much everything. He can be a power back. He can be elusive. He is good in the second level. He catches passes. He's a decent run blocker or pass blocker. So I think that's why the Steelers were attracted to him. He can, like, plug into a situation, and you won't really be lacking in anything, especially at the running back position. So once again, I feel like that's why like the Steelers picked him, because I feel like this year they consider it to be the year, like their last chance, kind of like the Saints were last year. So like I don't really see a weakness in his game per se.
Do you actually think that he was the best running back in the class? Because obviously a lot of people were sort of like putting him level with Etienne and also Javonte Williams as well as being mentioned at one point. So do you think he's the best one to come through?
I think it's like it depends on your preference. If you're more into like a pass-catching, modern NFL-style running back, I'd probably go Etienne because of what he can do, like especially stretching the field. If you're looking for more of a traditional running back, then I would say it's Najee Harris. So it's more or less how you feel.
I preferred Najee. For me, I don't know what it was. It just had probably the Crimson Tide colours. Yeah, it's very convenient for me. Yeah, of course. I thought the only weakness I thought when I was watching some film on him earlier was he goes off like a cannon, which is really good, and he finds the gaps and he's north to south very well. But I didn't see many runs where there was not that Le'Veon Bell patience where Le'Veon Bell would just stand still almost and then cut and be able to read what was going on, but he didn't seem to have much. He seemed to just go out like a cannon. And in the NFL, he's going to need to be more technical in a way, I think. But that was like my only knock, and I don't think it's not a huge one either. I only watched a handful of plays, and all of them were going for touchdowns or big runs. And like I said, he had best offensive line in college, so he was able to go off a gun because everyone had got their assignments and did it well. It's just being at the Steelers, like we've said, the offensive line lots of times. If that isn't up to par, you're maybe going to have to create situations for yourself. And it's whether he can create the situations for himself, which I think he'll be able to do because I think he is that talented. But it's whether that can translate into the NFL, maybe.
I know, like, especially even with a weaker offensive line, that weakness might actually work out for him because you don't have to be patient behind a line that's not going to form any holes. So that, like, weakness could actually work out for him, at least for now. Like, he'll have to change it if he wants, like, long-term viability at the NFL, especially when he gets a stronger line to work behind or a more cohesive line, I should say.
How did you feel about the rest of the draft? I mean, you did bring in some players, Pat Frymuth came in, Kendrick Green from Illinois, as you said. I mean, did you think it was a good draft or like okay or what?
I understood what they were going for. They were going for more of like a short-term like fix, especially with Frymuth. I mean, they like him as like a dual threat option, like a mini Gronk, first tight end off the board. I think they had a lot of issues at tight end, especially with Eric Ebron being unable to run block and having the dropsies, especially later in the season. I think they're really trying to fix that. Plus, Ebron's back, so you have like a 2 tight end option that you can choose from. With Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, I saw a lot of him when he was at Pitt in 2015, 2016. I loved him when he was at Pitt. I just don't know how he's going to do at this next level, especially since he's bounced around from team to team like every single year. And I know like with like the center position, they are really high on Kendrick Green. But once again, I feel like he's more of a project. He's going to be another year or two before I feel like he's fully ready for starting role. And then your mid to late round guys, you're more or less picking them for depth and shots in the dark. So I'm not really going to grade them per se. I mean, there seem to be some intriguing pieces, especially the 2 from Texas A&M. But at the same time, like it's going to be a while, if not at all, if you see anything out of them.
I was very prepared for a very boring draft by the Steelers, like a couple of O-linemen, cornerback depth, maybe defensive line depth, everything like that. But when it was straight off the bat, like I said earlier, that it was Harris pick, great flash pick, and then Frymouth, and I'm like, well, that's not how the plan should be going. It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be getting the running back and then not getting him the help. We need to get him the help. It's like I love when they draft quarterbacks. Teams draft quarterbacks in the draft, and then their next pick, if it's in the first round or second round, they draft defensive linemen straight away. So I'm like, right, you've got your quarterback of the future. You've gone and got him protection that he is going to his ride or die with for the rest of it. If you keep him for his whole career in that team, they're going to have such a cohesive unit because they're going to be in the same draft class. They came in together and they're going to learn together. And Frymouth, you're right. I feel like it is another weapon. We were awful at pass blocking. Eric Ebron had got the drops at the end of the year. I didn't see I was shocked by the pick personally. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. I put 2 and 2 together and made 5 with that because I still think Eric Ebron's very capable. I think he's a very good player still. I don't think we necessarily needed that. I thought we should have gone offensive lineman. I'm sure Dickerson was on the board at that point, and that's who I wanted to pick. Again, I agree with you, Ian. Everything else is just depth, really. Corner would have been an interesting one in the second, just because I feel like that's sort of a weakness on the defense at the minute. Not a weakness because it is strong, but if you could pick anything in that defense, it would be the corner for me at the moment.
They've shed a lot of talent in the offseason. Yeah. Nelson's gone, and Mike Hilton, which is going to be a huge loss, especially for their nickel and dime formations.
Exactly.
Another thing, also the loss of Bud Dupree. I mean, do you feel that this is going to be a big thing because he was such a strong player at the beginning of last season?
I would say like potentially, but at the same time, the Steelers are really high on Alex Highsmith, and they got Melvin Ingram too. So I think he can really fill in a role, especially as like a pass rushing specialist. So I think they'll be okay on that end, especially with TJ Watt like occupying the right tackle in that position. So I don't think that's going to be my real weakness on the defensive side. It's more or less going to be middle linebacker, especially with Devin Bush coming back from an injury, Vince Williams retiring. Can Robert Spillane keep up what he's doing? And cornerback, once again, I mean, you're looking at like a replacement Cameron Sutton. You're looking at him to elevate his role and be something that he really hasn't been, a number 2 corner. Like, will Justin Lane step up maybe?
Joe Hayden's only getting older.
Yeah, Hayden might be his last year here too.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got issues on the secondary that you still have to answer as well. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I mean, hopefully you can extend him. Hopefully you can extend TJ Watt. And I'm trying to think, but, like, at the same time, like, there are questions on that end as well. I think, like, their defensive line's still really goddamn solid. I think they'll be fine there. But at the same time, like, I don't think the defense is as bulletproof as a lot of people think they are right now.
There's definitely it was like a shield last year, and now there's a few holes. There's holes in the shield now.
Yeah, but now you have to patch them up.
Yeah, and you have to patch them up. But I don't think the mortar we've had to put over them holes has been Robert Spillane, Alex Highsmith, and then Cam Sutton, Justin Lane. Alex Highsmith, I'm quite high on. I enjoyed him last year. I thought he was pretty decent. I think Bud Dupree is a loss. I think because that tandem of him and TJ Watt did really work, but the money he wanted, the age he is, the player he's been, how long we've had him, and he's only proved himself really 2 years now. He's had 2 good seasons out of the 4 that he was there. I was happy for us to move on from him. And Spillane, when he did fill in, he looked pretty good as well. He's not Vince Williams, I don't think is no great loss at all. Devin Bush is my favorite player on the Steelers. I just love Devin Bush so much. I just hope that he can carry on his rise. His injury really upset me last year because he was just on a meteoric rise, and I really hope that he carries on that because like Devin White, who got drafted, I think it was like 3 picks later, or 3 picks before.
It was 5 picks. I love that pick too. I love what they did to move up and pick him. Like that was a huge need.
Oh yeah, I loved it, and I love that they're both on that trajectory of being so good at their position, being two of the best middle linebackers in the league. But they have got some way to go, both of them. And Bush has been halted because of the injuries, unfortunately. But he'll come back better. We were begging for a Ryan Shazier replacement. He was that replacement. He has been that guy. It's just now getting someone with him to work in that tandem. I think you're right. I haven't really thought about who would be filling in there. But if Spillane can be ample at least at doing that job, then I'm very okay with that.
Yeah, if he can be like a Clark Higgins type, I'll be fine. So,
one thing I've got to ask you both really before we finish, how do you feel you're going to do this season? Obviously, you've got a really tough division that you're in now with Baltimore and obviously the rise of Cleveland again. So, I mean, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, I said last year they had an upset of like 10-6, 9-7. I would say like upsides probably once again like 10-7, 9-8. That's how I'd say. I mean, like you've got a shot at a wild card berth, I feel like. But at the same time, like, I mean, your division's too strong to really think they can make a run. And if you actually look at their schedule, the back end is very tough. So, and there are a lot of coin flips. I mean, Oakland, they always play poorly for whatever reason. I have no idea why, but I'm sorry, Vegas, the Raiders are always their kryptonite. I mean, Cincy, you don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be like a legitimate stud. You have Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is back, so that might be a loss. The Titans, they're a big coin flip as well. The NFC Central as well. I mean, like you're looking potentially Chicago, Minnesota could still be something there. So this is a very difficult schedule if a lot of things like line up the way that they look. So I do not see another 11-0 start. Let's just put it that way.
Oh no. That's not
Please no.
No 11-0s, thank you.
Yeah.
No, don't put the worst thing you can do to any fan is give them hope. And we got given a bag full of hope.
Yeah,
and,
even my cynical self like felt hope. I thought this team was different than they were the last couple of years, and then they just like die. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I think the problem is we've the last few years it's been right. We've got a win and a loss probably against the Ravens. We've got 2 wins against the Browns. We've probably got 2 wins against the Bengals. Well, that's enough to get you a playoff now. Yeah. Now you look at it, you've got 2 losses against the Ravens probably 2 losses against the Browns.
Yep, and maybe then the Bengals, they can always steal a game or two.
It's a win or a loss situation. It could be 2 losses, could be 2 wins, could be 1 apiece. You just don't know. And that's what makes it so hard now. And you're right, the Titans, the Vikings, who else we got now?
Packers. The Packers. Bills, I think, too.
Yeah, Bills we are opening against, which is that's a
brutal open.
So we've got Bills, Raiders, Bengals, Packers, Broncos in the first 5 weeks. Yeah. You could go
probably 2-3, 3-2, depending on how that goes.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay if we didn't make the playoffs. Yes, it'd be upsetting, but I'd be okay with that as well because I know there is a lot of really good teams out there. I think the Browns are only have really arrived now. Yeah. We've joked about them for years, and they were awful for years, but they have really arrived. And the Bengals will be that team as well. They will rise as well again. It's whether the Ravens. I feel like the Ravens and Steelers, it's going to spin round on us at some point, and the Steelers, it's going to be sooner. But the Ravens, I don't think the Ravens are the meteoric team that they were and the tough side they were. I still think they're good, and Lamar Jackson is fantastic. But
but he has flaws in the passing game.
He has flaws in the passing game.
In the playoffs.
The running backs, that Mark Ingram, Lamar Jackson season was just incredible. I don't think Gus Edwards and their other guy, J.K. Dobbins, are as good, but they could be. Their defense is starting to deplete and get older as well.
They have issues at wideout. I mean, they did invest in I think a couple big free agents and a draft pick, if I remember correctly. Their first rounder was a wideout. So they've been trying to fix that for a while.
So who do you think is going to win the division if it's not going to be you guys? I'm just going to turn that screw a little bit more.
I'm kind of thinking Cleveland. They look legitimate, especially on defense.
Yeah.
Their biggest question is, can Baker Mayfield continue to evolve? And I'm not a big Mayfield fan, more or less because like it's just his personality kind of turns me off a bit. But he is a solid quarterback, but I don't know if he's going to be like in that elite echelon. And that's what's going to hold them back from, say, what they can truly be.
Yeah, I agree. I think the signing of Chubb to the extension this
week, that's an excellent signing. Excellent.
Showed what the Browns are about, and they know Baker's limitations, and they know that Nick Chubb runs that offense really now, and to win games, they put the ball in Chubb's hands. I don't think Baker needs to be elite for them to have a great. He just needs to manage the game.
He just needs to be good. If he's good, they're going to go far.
Then it's fine because they've got OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Harrison Bryant. Yeah, they've got such weapons. I mean, not weapons. Out of like four of them, there's not that many weapons, I suppose. But
they've got a good arsenal, man. I mean, they have the best one-two punch in the league and running back. Once again, OBJ is coming off an injury, but at the same time, he's still a talent.
A top 3 O-line. Top 3 O-line. It's if not the best O-line in the league at the minute. They're a scary team. I think they win the division personally.
I think so too.
Well, I'm glad that you've both come to that realization that it's just not going to be good for you guys.
We're so happy about it. Well, Steve, I really appreciate you coming on, my man. Definitely. It's great chatting to a fellow Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I mean, Absolutely. I've been waiting 23 episodes to, do this one. So finally, it was my time to shine, and we've done it very well together. Where can we find your stuff on YouTube, my man?
Well, I'm available on Urinating Tree on YouTube. I am on Twitter on Urinating Tree. I'm more or less just shitpost on there. I'm not anything serious, but those would be the two places you'd find me. I do like a weekly thing on the NFL season called This Week in Sports Ball. So it's just recaps of like the weeks throughout. So I'll be doing those for all 18 weeks. And I'll be doing like a season preview called The Haters Guide to the NFL season, AFC and NFC. Those should be out in, I'm guessing, late August. Yeah, probably late August.
Oh, awesome, man. Well, make sure you'll keep your eyes out for that because Steve produces some great stuff on all his platforms. So make sure you go and check them out when they are there. Oh, sorry, my girlfriend just posted Steeler Nation on our comment boards, which is very nice of her. It shows that I have support in my own house, at least. Anyway, thank you very much. Cheers for everyone tuning in. Thank you for all the support you've been giving us with our live videos and also our pre-recorded ones as well. We've got lots more coming up. Just over a month now till the NFL season starts. Lots of exciting times. The Steelers game, the Hall of Fame games, is this Thursday at 1 a.m. in the UK time, 8 p.m. Eastern time in America against the Cowboys. I'm sure that will not be as great as everyone thinks it will be.
It's mostly just going to be like probably about a quarter of just the starters, and then they bring in the backups to try for roles.
Yeah, but we've been starved of NFL for so long. It's football, and we're going to enjoy it nonetheless. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week, guys. Keep supporting the Franchise Tag Podcast, and we'll see you all very soon.
Rock on.